Okay, let's give this another shot. I'm Aesop Grimm. Welcome to the channel. We are continuing my Return to WoW series. I need to mute mic and clear my throat. There we go. Well, kind of. Yeah, still really scratchy. So anyway, we just had a rough start. I had to restart everything, and now I see that my mic is picking up audio. If I click into the game, we should have game audio as well. Let me now check my tabs here. Okay, Armstrong reports that he can hear good. I just refreshed YouTube and it is showing up well. Twitch looks good. My Restream chat app is also bringing in all the chats, so I can close both of those out. YouTube and Twitch get closed out. Kick. Try sending a message in Kick and make sure it shows up in the pop-out that I've got up. It does. Okay, so that's good to go. And then finally, Rumble. Also do a test chat. And it shows up in the pop-out I have. So, but Rumble I like to keep up. For video monitoring. Okay, well, as I was saying, we are in the Hinterlands. I was talking about this during the silent stream. Looks like everything is good to go. Let's go ahead and get into it. We're in the Hinterlands. I am level 46, I believe. Yes. Over on Season of Discovery, I am beginning to experiment with shadow unit frames. And so once I have that figured out, I'll be bringing that over into this character as well. This is Friday. I did want to let you guys know that next week we'll probably be slowing down on the streaming because I will be returning back to recording. Like this weekend, I'm going to be recording Elden Ring videos. I'm in the Halig Tree zone. I've never done it before. So I'm going to be working on that. Those will release on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Tuesdays and Thursdays are when I'm planning on streaming. I might stream other days as well, but I typically don't stream on the weekends. And I just wanted to give you guys the heads up that because I'm getting back into, I guess, more of my regular schedule, and that's going to include Elden Ring and probably Deus Ex as well. Things will slow down probably with World of Warcraft from what I've been doing. It's been every day during the week for the past few weeks. But I'm having a blast. I'm having a lot of fun. If you want to know what I'm up to as far as my overall plan, you can look in the description video for YouTube or Rumble, and it'll give you a real quick summary outline there of what I am doing. Off screen, I picked up fishing. Sissy, a couple days ago, she let me know that I was at really low level food. So I leveled cooking a little bit. I leveled fishing some. I'm still not up where I need to be, but I did get started on it. I went and bought new ammo. So we're all loaded up on ammo here. You can see my fishing gear right here. And we're basically ready to go. So we're using Carbonite now as our questing and map mod. And so we're going to go ahead and follow the GPS to the mangy silver mains out here, where we need 10 of those guys. Wow, what time is it? 6 p.m. Oh yeah, I guess that is a 6 p.m. kind of sky. I woke up late today, just a few hours ago. I'm telling you guys, like, I'm not kidding whenever I tell you I got kind of rock around the clock and my sleep schedules are still kinds of... I have no discipline in this area. and I'm a natural night owl. Well, I say that. I don't know if I'm a natural night owl or if it was conditioned into me, but my first assignment at 19 years old, I worked a lot of mid shifts and stuff, and then my lifestyle also was, I was over in Europe, and what is the, you killing our griffins? He wants to fight. No, I'm not fighting you. Thanks, bud. His name is Caspel. Yeah, so over in Europe, if you show up to the club before midnight, you're a geek. Right? That's not normal. Here in America, I don't even know what time people go out here in America. I was kind of out of clubbing when, I think maybe 8 o'clock. And then, like, here, we tend to have last call is at, I think last call is at 2 and the club closes at 4, or is last call at 12 midnight and the club closes at 2. I can't remember. But in Europe, it's nothing like that. That's not the case. In Europe, those nightclubs don't shut down until like 8, 9 in the morning. One time I went to a place, this wasn't exactly a nightclub. It was a place that opened its doors for top-end talent DJs, like internationally renowned top-ranked DJs. That's the only time it would open up. So we would make the trip. This was in Slovenia. And I didn't go home from there until they opened up the shutters, and it was like 11 a.m. So it could, now that was later in my life, but my first assignment, 19 years old, Portugal, professionally, I worked a lot of mids and swing shifts. Because I did feel like I was more alert at night, and I kind of liked getting away from brass and not having as much micromanagement. So it could be that between that and between my after-hours lifestyle, that I kind of just conditioned myself at that early of an age to be more awake at nighttime, and it just sort of stuck. So I'm just acknowledging that that's a possibility. If I had to bet, though, I would just tell you it's natural. I think I'm a natural. I think that's my natural biorhythm. Armstrong says usually last call is at 2. Okay. Yeah, see, it's been a long time since I've been out there. And it's not like I've not gone clubbing in America. I just didn't really like it very much. Clubbing in America seemed to be more about showing off, and I don't really know how to put it, because I don't want to throw it under the... We have a different culture over here, and we're naturally competitive, and then we have kind of a bravado also, kind of a beat your chest sort of bravado. So all of that kind of shows up. So if you go out on the dance floor, you better kind of know how to dance, you know? And if you are good, then people want to recognize you for it, and they form a ring around you and they cheer you on, because I think that their impression is the reason you're dancing and that you're good at it is you want to show off that you're good at it, and you want people to give you the accolades. I think that's the attitude. Whereas in Europe, you could look like a complete goofball and nobody cares. Everybody's out there together just having fun. And if you're really good at dancing, nobody is really giving you any fanfare. You know, it's just a totally different culture. Anyway, Armstrong goes on to say, I have worked as security guard in EU nightclub, and it's funny, when I went home and slept after the night, first customers came to drink coffee. In Europe, you need to be wasted AF and look like an absolute idiot. Yeah. Yeah, it can be like that. There's some really totally goofy looking people, a lot of them. But I liked that about Europe. There was no judgment, no condemnation or anything, and people felt at ease just being themselves. And for me, I appreciated that. we go. All right, so troll, see, it goes right next to the, it just auto checks to the next quest that's closest to you. So we're 96 yards from troll tribal necklace. We need 5 of them. This is the carbonite mod. I really like how it's working. If memory serves right, I'm 90% sure I was using this mod at the end of my original World of Warcraft playing days. It was a relatively new mod back then. At whatever point in time I found it, it was new. I'm not sure how long I used it. Dead troll. Man, I was trying to mine on Season of Discovery last night, and I went to a cave in kind of close to Horde territory. It's where SFK is. What is it called? Silver Pine Forest. And I had learned about this cave on YouTube. So it was like a farm area for 10 ore. And there was a troll mage there that just, between Blink and their knowledge of where the nodes were, and it seemed like they had some knowledge of when which nodes were respawning. And they were just beating me time and time again. I mean, it must have been extremely satisfying for them. Here I am, I'm a paladin, right? So the paladin thing, the way they mock them is they make the paladin icon a wheelchair because you're slow. Like, you don't have charge like a warrior or anything, so I'm just plodding around trying to get to these modes as they pop up on my radar, and this troll, Eliza was the troll's name, and she was beating me to everything. I have a feeling it was a dude behind the keyboard, but we'll just go by the character gender, right? She was beating me at absolute everything. And shoot, man. I mean, I was competing with her. I don't normally node steal. I think that's, whenever I was playing, that was considered disgusting behavior, and you would get called out on the server for it. So I don't tend to compete with people over nodes. If you got there first, it's your node. But she was Horde, right? So I was going to compete with her, and she was competing with me too, to be fair, on the ones that I did get to. But mostly, she was just totally dusting me. And so then later on, as I'm working with shadow unit frames and I'm resetting up my my weak auras for my pally and trying to form a UI and put everything together, I needed to go test it. So I went to Red Ridge, where there's also a cave there that you can farm 10. And there was an Alliance troll there. Revik, I think was his name. Not a troll, Alliance mage. And again, using Blink and also seemingly knowing the pattern and the timing of the respawns, he was beating me to everything. That was really difficult. Why is this blinking and I can't pick it up? Oh, I have a disease on me. It's showing up right here. See, I don't like that. I need to find a way to... I want to move these. Okay, I know what I need to do temporarily. Let's back off a little bit. I need to open up Leatrix Plus. Add-ons. No, not add-ons. Options. Add-ons. Leatrix Plus. Okay, /LTP. /LTP. And manage buffs. Whoops. Open that up, and I need to pull this over to be... Let's just put it right there. And then bring punks like over to, I don't know, maybe over here. Okay, that'll be the temporary fix. I have not figured out how to move these icons yet. Disease, intellect and spirit reduced by 9. Fortunately, we're a hunter and none of that matters. It's not like we don't benefit. We benefit from both of those. It's just that we're so OP, it's not going to affect us. What? You will get the full brunt of my arsenal for disturbing my chest opening activities. Taste my steel, sucker. Alright. Ralph, you kind of spooked me there, coming up that hard. Alright. Is this going to be number 5? No, it's not. Time to get another scalp. I guess that's in the news lately. I saw something. I saw another. Yesterday, I brought up a lefty headline that was absolutely insanely ridiculous, right? Where they talked about needing to strip Trump off the ballot so that they want to be authoritarian without due process, right? While in the byline saying that the reason is that they had to protect the democracy against fascists. So that was yesterday's headline, right? They're openly advocating for authoritative control over who you can and cannot vote for, while telling you that you're the fascist.
Quest complete.
Oh, that was cool. So check first cage 50 yards away. So today's was, or it might have been last night. Oh, shoot. It'll come to me in a minute. I just blinked on it. I'll think of it here in a minute. Well, it says the cage is right here. Ah, there it is. Okay, easy enough. What spec you gonna be whenever you're 80? I'm gonna do Beast Mastery again. The guide I found that to guide me through all of this stuff in chronological order suggested I take the same race and the same class. Now, maybe I should do survival for retail. Yeah, I might do survival because that's viable. That's a viable spec, and I've never messed with it. I think I told you before that whenever I was playing, that was like where Huntard began. Because survival was not a viable spec, and so everybody lolled at the idea of being a melee hunter, and you were like a noob that didn't understand anything about the game, you know. And so that was the origin of the whole Huntard meme. So now that survival is perfectly viable, maybe I'll give that a shot. It's just that I really love Beast Mastery. So it's hard for me to go away from that, but I can probably force myself. It would be fun. It would be fun to find out what else is new out there. Armstrong says the doublespeak is real. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it really is, man. It's not just the doublespeak. It's how broken these people's brains are. Like, you can see the indoctrination etched across them. You know, talk about a lack of self-awareness. It kind of blows my mind. I wish I could. I can't believe I just kind of blanked what I was going to actually talk about, though. There was another thing that came up. I think I saw it last night that I thought was just absolutely hilarious. Oh, okay. Dang it. I don't think I'm going to win that one. I went through all my tricks. Just aggroed too many guys. Oh, I remember what it was, guys. Because I had said scalp. And the thing that was in the news is that apparently the lefties are like completely outraged that this Harvard president got forced to resign because of plagiarism. Like rampant plagiarism. That's, for those of you who don't know, plagiarism is the cardinal sin of the academic world. You can't do that and maintain a professor, much less a president. You get completely excommunicated from that entire society. So the fact that she's still getting paid her salary that she was making as president and is still on board with the university, that's a whole lot of grace being shown, a whole lot. Because this chick plagiarized the heck out of her entire career. and apparently she wrote a thesis that was used as a primary point for, I guess, like what we would call, I guess, woke recruiting practices for who gets to come to the university, who gets scholarships and stuff like that. But it was her conclusion that was leaned on. When she was pressed for the data, she wouldn't share the data. And then on top of that, she gets busted for plagiarism. Multiple instances of plagiarism. So that's basically, to put it bluntly, if you're going to be truthful and you're going to be blunt, she's a proven liar. That's what plagiarism is. You know, so the fact that she wouldn't release her data in combination with getting busted as a liar in the most egregious way that academia has really kind of tells you something, right? So, but the left went nuts and they were like, it's weaponized plagiarism. They're like, the right has weaponized plagiarism as a new attack vector against women of color. Okay. And so there was an article headline. This is the thing that I was wanting to tell people about because it's funny. The article headline, this was in the AP. It said that we were beating our chests because we were writing articles that said we claimed a scalp, which was true, right? I mean, we were beating our chest, kind of. We don't see it as beating our chest to overcome a woke person. We see it as bringing truth to light. There's no way you should be a college president if you're guilty of plagiarism. No way. I don't care if you're a man, woman, or farting Martian. You can't be the president of the most prestigious, or one of the most prestigious universities in the country, supposedly, if you're guilty of plagiarism. So why is she? Well, the answer is really clear. It's DEI. She is president not because of her capabilities and her merit. She was president because of her skin color and gender. That's what we are. When we are able to overcome that by bringing things up to such a point that it forces a resignation, you're darn right we're going to beat our chests. It's not that we're defeating a liberal. It's that reality is winning. Right? So this article said that it quoted, I think it was like a Gateway Pundit article that was talking about how we claimed a scalp. And it said that we were using rhetoric by saying we claimed a scalp that hailed back to horrific, barbarous acts that colonists enacted on indigenous peoples. You gotta be fucking kidding me. I want to know the IQ of the person who wrote this article and their education level, because they weren't educated. They were indoctrinated. Colonists and started the barbarous tradition of scalping Indians. Mofo, I am Indian. I have Indian blood in me. It's part of my bloodline. It's part of my family history. It's something that we're really kind of we embraced it. How do I want to put it? It's not that I'm sitting here being like I could join the Navajo, or in my case the Cherokee. I'm not saying that. I'm predominantly a whole bunch of other stuff, but we like. Hold on. We're proud of the Indian bloodline. And I'm telling you, white people didn't invent that. This place was not some sort of utopia prior to colonists showing up. This place was warred over. Every inch of land in this country was warred over and paid with in blood. I can't seem to get that whole batch down. I feel like it's hard to get in there. I need to be a warrior. It's hard to get like a line of sight in there. But this place, we have found like general mass graves where all of the remaining warriors, the women and the children of a rival tribe were butchered. Because back in the day, that's how you did things. If you were going to move in on a territory, you didn't want no blood oath vendetta coming back at you. So you just got rid of those people root and stem, right? And so this lady, I'm assuming it sounds like a lady. That is my assumption. I just said this lady. I don't know who that author is, but it sounds like a woke chick, probably white, that asserted it was colonists that began the barbarous practice of scalping people. The ones who showed up with guns are the ones that scalp. Oh, come on. So, I don't know. It really shouldn't be funny because it's so sad, but what else are you gonna do, man? You just gotta laugh at the stupidity out there. It's really, really deep-seated ignorance. Let's see what Armstrong says. Yeah. Universities are such a scam in this area. And the U.S. won the Hockey World Cup today. Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know there was a Hockey World Cup going on. Well, congratulations to the USA. So I'm pointing these things out I'm not trying to be hyper partisan. everything gets taken that way these days because the lines have been drawn and it's real clear which side you're on. So now if you just simply express an opinion, it's considered like an act of war or something. But I'm just looking at this at the level of ridiculousness involved here. And I'm shocked. We got the high ground now. I think I'm going to be able to clear this place out. Oh, look at me. I don't have aspect of the hawk on. Oh, I could fire. Oh, I need to be killing Silvermane wolves. Well, I think I need that cage also. And I agree with Armstrong about universities being a scam now. Gosh, if I was to advise a young person these days, I would tell them go to a trade school. And one part of that is because I don't think universities are in the business of educating anymore. They're in the business of indoctrinating. They don't teach you how to think. They teach you what to think. And that's why classical learning is really making a strong comeback, is because that's all about teaching students critical thinking skills. It's a different approach. It's a different, let me see if I can get this word right. Pedagogy? I don't think I got that right. It's something around there. It's the theory and philosophy of teaching that you take. Because there's a few different ones. So classical learning is making a really strong comeback. But that's at the high school level mostly. There are a few colleges that are doing it also. But the bigger part is that there are so many people getting... How do I say this without it being complex? Because that's my big problem, is that I kind of overcomplicate things. There's such a glut of degrees out there that the market is full. And the way that happened is that going all the way back to the 80s, I can actually remember the surprise that was involved in this. It was a shock, which the reason I'm pointing that out is to illustrate that I don't think this was organic. I think this was socially engineered. But there was a point in time in the 80s that your experience in a job no longer mattered. Companies wanted to hire the highest paying jobs. They wanted to hire the guy that graduated from Harvard at the top of his class, or in the top 3% of his class. No real world experience at all. Purely academic. But they wanted to hire him over the guy that had 40 years of experience and did not have a degree, or had a less prestigious degree. Right? And I don't think that happened organically. I think that was a coordinated move behind the scenes between who knows what, right? But for their own ends and own purposes. But I'm telling you that the result of that was that culturally, coming all the way down to the level I was at, down in primary school, K through 12, over a period of time, it became an accepted fact that if you didn't want to work your hands to the bone until you were old and unable to even move properly, being a plumber, for example, then you'd better go to college and you'd better get a degree in a white-collar profession. So that was the sentiment. If you were going to be a repairman, if you were going to be a mechanic, if you were going to be a plumber, an electrician, a carpenter, these trade jobs, then that was for the poors. And you were going to be poor your whole life, and you were going to work day and night, long hours, and you were going to have to work late into your life because you would never have enough to really save up for retirement. You would always be living hand to mouth. That, over time, from that shift in the 80s that happened, became the prevalent thought. So then, kind of in everybody's subconscious, it became mandatory that you go to college if you wanted to be successful in life. Okay, well, fine. I mean, maybe there's even some truth to that. But what I'm saying is that in every situation, look at this in World of Warcraft. If there's a ton of people out here farming these owls because they need a quest, you're not going to get the owls you need. The person who's going to be able to earn XP and level faster is the person that's going to leave this area, go do a quest that nobody else is doing, or very few people, and then circle back and hit this later. Or even completely abandon it. The whole principle being supply and demand. If you have too much supply and not enough demand, then that job is going to become cheap, right? If you have a whole bunch of people farming 10 ore and putting it on the auction house, what used to be a gold maker, because you could sell it for, let's just say, 100 gold a stack, something ridiculous, and people were buying it. But then when everybody starts farming it and selling it, it drives the price down, and now you can only get 50 silver for a stack, right? Supply and demand, supply and demand. If you have a whole lot more supply than there is demand, then it's going to drive value down. Well, that's what we have now. Everybody and their brother went to college to go get this white-collar degree because they saw trade jobs as being worthless. And so now, whatever conditions might have existed, if there was any truth to it ever, have flipped. And now you got too many computer programmers, you got too many CEOs, you got too many business administrators, too many doctors, too many, nurses. And you don't have enough mechanics, you don't have enough carpenters. And so that's where the money's at. Because you can't find good help. There's barely enough help in general, much less good help. So I would tell young people, go to trade school. It was such a long way to say that, but when I get to talking, man, Armstrong, I had so much fun in trade school. Everyone acted like adults and everyone was there to learn. There wasn't anyone with a superiority complex. Man, that's awesome. We need one more silver main. Yeah, I have an acquaintance through family whose son just got done with trade school, and he graduated with a whole battery of certificates and a slew of different occupations. That guy can go into EMT work. He can become a fireman. He can work in as a welder. He can go into engineering. He got certified in a whole bunch of different things. It's like 10 different occupations. And I think it was a 2-year school, so he's got more certifications that are actually applicable to jobs than people graduating college. He has less than a quarter of the debt, and he's done in 2 years, where they're spending a minimum of 4, and most of them are getting hoodwinked into taking loans out to pursue a master's degree, and then a quarter of those are getting degrees in stupid things like gender ideology. That's not going to get you a job anywhere. So the kids going to trade school are way out in front, and they're out there putting their career together, getting training, moving up the ladder, and building their career 2 full years before the college kids even get a crack at it in whatever they decided to get their degree in, which is likely more and more likely to be a saturated field. unless you're doing something like engineering, maybe. The STEM careers are pretty legit. I think if you get a degree in one of the STEM careers, then you're probably going to do all right finding a job. Armstrong says, I can literally pick up double time pay anytime I want. Work one Saturday and make $50 an hour. See, that's the kind of flexibility that you want to have in your life. That's amazing. In this era of side gigs, Armstrong is saying that he can basically just go out there, put an ad out, and he can find work and make good money doing it, just on a whim. Like, hey, it's the weekend. I want extra spending cash. Let me go do this job for 6 hours, and then I'll go out and party tonight. Something like that, right? That's incredible flexibility. You can freelance, basically. Yo, I want to preface this by saying I am not a Q guy. I've seen some stuff from Q over the years. I think, as would likely be the case with anything that delves deep into stuff, they get a few things right, but I think that I've looked at some of their other theories and how far back it goes and how deep it gets, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't think so. If we find out otherwise, then okay. But when it comes to child trafficking and predators and stuff like that, I think it's objectively true that we've had a spike in that in recent years. It's been steadily climbing up. And then we're also exposing more and more and more. And it's like if you were to start looking at waterlogged wood, right? You just see kind of a little sign on the surface, and then you peel that up and you start seeing more and more damage, and then you run into termites, and the more you dig and closer you look, the worse it gets. I think that's kind of what sex trafficking is like for pedophilia. And so what is going on right now with this Epstein list being released, and I think that's just the tip of the iceberg. I'm saying that as a non-Q person. I'm not somebody who thinks that everything in the world revolves around pedophilia, but I am starting to believe that there does seem to be something I don't know the words to use, some sort of specific link with these elites. I think there's blackmail, and then maybe people sort of get into it as a lifestyle. I don't think that's necessarily the appropriate way to put it, but I can't think of another way to put it. There's something going on that does seem constructed and coordinated, and revolves around a specific group of people or class of people. That to me would make sense. I mean, if you can get somebody addicted, or you find that their predilections are disgusting, and you can blackmail them. I grew up in neighborhoods that had the hustle was like the pinnacle. It was the cornerstone of how the neighborhood worked. So that's how a hustle works. You find somebody's weakness, they don't want that information out. You find out their secrets, and then you blackmail them. That's why we have a word called blackmail. There was a specific operation that was occurring within humanity of people getting got. And we had to come up with a word for how you control somebody like that. And so I haven't been real paying close attention to anything. I'm just kind of keeping tabs on it. But that looks like something that could really unfold into much more grave understandings than what we even think about right now. Armstrong says, not even a side gig. The contractor I work for has so much work coming in that it's overtime on demand. Wow. What trade are you working in, Armstrong? In case there's kids watching this, maybe you can give them an idea of something to look into. Armstrong says, it's like Alex Jones. The dude is a little nuts, but it's crazy how much stuff he's gotten right, and the stories he's broken 10 to 15 years before it comes to light in the mainstream media. Yo, that's true, man. That's absolutely true. And then there's a name that I've heard of that I've never listened to this guy before. I don't even know if he's still alive, but I've heard this name mentioned, and I understand that the context surrounding this name then is that he's a conspiracy theorist, right? But I saw just a little 30-second clip of a guy named David Icke done in the 90s talking about how things were going to develop if we didn't get this under control. And holy smokes, he was Johnny on the spot on everything. And they laughed him to scorn at the time. Armstrong is an electrician, kids. Look into that. My granddad was an electrician. So there you go. You want a job that you can build a career around, and you want to get started early and make money right now or relatively soon? Look into electrician. I don't remember anything that was said in the clip. It's the only time I've ever seen David Icke speak. I saw it on Twitter, I think. And like I said, it was like a 20 or 30 second clip. Maybe it was a minute and a half. I don't know. It was something relatively short. But everything that dude said back in the 90s, it was like 97 or something, was true of our current, I guess, status. My tab target, there it goes, okay. Oh, this is too high in skinning. Armstrong says, I got into the trades late too. I was 28 when I went to trade school. If I had gone into a CE... Okay, this is Air Force speak, guys. Civil engineering as his career in the Air Force instead of security forces, I'd have my master's license by now. Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot about the licensing. That's how the trade industry works. You have licensing, you take classes that certify you in higher and higher levels. And so the sooner you can get started on that, the higher you can climb. And it helps whenever you're young and you have all these qualifications, right? Companies like to hire young. So all of that behooves a high school student who wants to get going right now and maybe doesn't have the money to take the free ride to scholarship, the free college to blah, 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 the free scholarship to college. You avoid the indoctrination because, let's face it, there's a really solid chance you're going to get some. It's just, what would be another word besides indoctrination? You're getting... Their hiring practices are such that the entire culture of a university, from the top of its administration down to its graduate assistants, are all of one persuasion predominantly in their worldview. So imagine if you were way back in the Middle Ages and you wanted to climb the ladder, but you weren't noble. You weren't born into a noble line. About the only place that you had to go was the church. So imagine if you're somebody who doesn't really particularly believe very strongly in what the church believes in, but you want to make a better life for yourself, so you play along. That's kind of like what it's like. It's one ideology. And so you're going to get one perspective continuously. Then you're going to get a degree in something that may or may not land you a job. It's really iffy right now. And then on top of that, you're going to get pushed pretty hard by your peer group and by your professors. Not because I don't think it's nefarious. I think they believe in it. But they're going to tell you, hey, take the student loan. The government will give you the money. Take the student loan and get yourself a master's degree. Because that's kind of also part of the environment. You're in a saturated environment. So now a bachelor's isn't enough. You need to get a master's. Right? And you just incurred a whole lot of student debt. And you don't know yet. You haven't gone and tested the market. You don't know if that degree's going to get you anything. And what me and Armstrong are passing on, Armstrong from actual real world experience, me from what I'm hearing from others, people like Armstrong, is that a trade job takes you half the time to get your degree, costs you less than half the money, and gets you onto the field and started in your career making actual real money and building a career in half the time. Why would you not do that? It's never been more clear cut what the choice is. Armstrong says a lot of companies will reimburse your trade school. That is true. Your trade school and equipment costs as well. There's several companies in my area that take the leap of faith and invest in their employees' professional development. Yeah, I've heard that. Like that's kind of a routine thing that's done, actually. So there's that just seems like a no-brainer to me. There's no way I would go within 100 yards of a university if I'm looking to try and get my life started. And that's coming from somebody who did go to university. Now, I'm kind of happy with mine because I didn't go for a job. I didn't need one. I had my pension. I went and got a degree in biblical studies. Now, am I Mr. Preacher Guy? No, man. My life is all kinds of off the rails in certain areas. That's why I went to go get that degree. That's the way that I learn, and I learned a whole lot of stuff by getting that degree. So I invested in my own life in that way. But I was in a unique position where I didn't need to have a career. So I could afford to do that. I had the GI Bill. I didn't incur a single dime of debt. I paid for that early in my Air Force career. The Air Force matched my dollar. And then, of course, I'm not trying to beat the drum or anything, but I deployed. Their sacrifices were made, and so that was part of the deal. I got my GI Bill, and then I used it for that. But that's a whole different set of circumstances than most of you. Most of you are looking for a career. And I'm telling you, trade jobs looks like the way to go. That guy right there, yep. Look at this. It'll actually track you to the individual guys. Oh, darn it. Oh, there's no hunter's mark on him. There we go. Oh, I think he's immune to... No, I just simply was missing him. I need... This tends to be like right where I want to fire my weapon. There we go. Quad K says, don't know about us, US, but in my country, trade school gets you to jobs that I wouldn't enjoy being in personally. Would be too repetitive and lacks challenges. Well, that was kind of the case over here. But you know, what I would say is that, well, I don't know. How much experience do you have with trade jobs? Because I kind of question that. For one thing, I think everything is repetitive. For another thing, lacks challenges. Everything out there has an easy level and has a complex level. So I don't think that you could call a master tradesman a lack of a challenge. I just... You might be able to do it subjectively, but I don't know how you could apply that to all trades everywhere. Like for you, maybe being a master welder would be too repetitive and lack challenge. Let me give you an example. Whenever I was in college, there was a guy I met. And I was with him the day that he met his future wife. It was in a class that we walked into. This girl's father is, he's a welder, okay? But he's one of the best welders in the whole world. This guy was hired by NASA, okay? The American Space Agency, NASA, to design robotic hands to autopilot the space shuttle, which is extremely farging complex to get metal. What they needed is they needed those robotic hands to sense the sensory input of a real human's hands back at a station on ground zero, earthbound. So a signal is being sent, and what that human does with his or her hands, the robot hands are able to replicate. But the problem is that the human hands are so dexterous and complicated that to construct something metallic that can actually carry out all of the different like angles and fine motor adjustments that human hands can is dang near impossible. And you're telling me that that's repetitive and too easy? Right? See, I think you're wrong, man. So over here in the States, we have a glut in the professional industry. So it's hard, even with a degree, to get in. It's even harder to climb the ladder. And we have a lack of people in the trade jobs. And so because of the basic premise of supply and demand, the trade jobs are making bank. Huge money for very little time put in. Armstrong, I physically can't do the same job 2 days in a row. It's always something different. Yeah, that's true. Electrician work, I don't have a lot of experience with electrician, but I worked in comm electronics, so I've been around it some. And wiring houses and doing projects that require that kind of wiring, every house is unique. Every project is different. So I'm not trying to throw shade at you, Quad. It's just that as I was thinking about what you said, I was like, no, I think I disagree. So I think you're absolutely entitled to your perception. I don't think trade job is for everybody. I don't think being a doctor is for everybody, or being a lawyer is for everybody. You got to find your niche, right? That's one of the great, I would say, like, mysteries to life. And it seems to be revolve around some luck, because when you come out of high school, most people, they don't know themselves well enough to know what they like. They don't know themselves well enough, and they don't have enough experience. So for you to find something that is truly actually aligns with who you are, your skill set, and keeps you interested, I think is kind of rare. And there's some luck involved in it. So if you're the type of person that looks at trade jobs, you're like, ugh, there's nothing about that would spark my interest at all. It looks god-awful. It looks boring. It looks repetitive. It looks like there's absolutely no complexity to it whatsoever. I don't think I can be intellectually stimulated by this. Maybe all of that is true for you, but I don't think it's objectively true of all trade jobs overall in general. That's what I'm trying to say. We got a long ways to go. 1,600 yards. Quad K says, I don't care about the money really, but just seems like trade school jobs don't have the responsibility and challenges that higher education jobs have. Again, I think that's incorrect. I think it depends on what level you're at. If you're the head of a company because you went up in your profession, now you run it, that's an awful lot of responsibility. Now, if you're comparing it to, like, I don't know, what are you comparing it to? If you're a CEO of a Fortune 500 company responsible for thousands of employees, then yeah, but that's not really the difference in the job. That's a difference in proportion. And he says also they are more physically demanding generally. That is true. Yes, they are. Armstrong says we do all custom homes to 5,000 square foot and bigger. Yeah, so there's everything's different. And I can't stress enough that example I brought up of that engineer that NASA hired. I think everything out there, whether you're talking about a white collar job or a blue collar job, you have your beginner entry level. I mean, that's why you have internships, right? Look at all these college kids that they graduate with a degree, and then the best they can hope for is to get an internship where they get paid like dirt and treated like slaves because they're the entry position. That's a very low skill job. You want to be cybersecurity professional one day, and at the top of your level, you're going to start out resetting people's passwords. That's a customer service job that a 12-year-old could do. But show me the complexity in that. You know? Armstrong says, I was in charge of a $5 million house last week. Wow, gonna be going to one that's $3 million next week. Yeah, a little bit of responsibility there. A little bit of pressure to perform. So, all I can do is say it because I can hear the tone in my voice, and that's just kind of how I am. It's my rhetoric. It's how I talk. I am not at all throwing shade at Quad K. That may be true for him. But I am drawing the line saying I don't think that's true for everybody or of everything when it comes to trade jobs. Now, I don't know. I'm not in Europe or wherever Quad K is at. Canada, Mexico, I don't know. Those circumstances could be such that I wouldn't be too interested in going that route. But the assertions of not challenging and repetitive and boring and generally low skilled is what it sounds like. I don't think that that's a correct assertion. I think that's actually objectively false. It could be subjectively true. So true in Quad K's case. But I think it's objectively false to label all trade jobs like that. And not look at how they progress in complexity just like any other job does. Quad K says, I'm in healthcare and practical nurse versus doctor there is a huge difference. Okay. So that's where Quad K is making an analogy there. Your nurse practitioner doesn't know nearly as much, doesn't have close to the amount of stress or pressure on them, doesn't have the responsibility, and doesn't have the education and know-how of a doctor. So I think maybe where you might draw a parallel for that when it comes to trade jobs is that there's a difference between a mechanic who repairs cars and the engineer who designs them. Well, yeah, there is a difference. There's plenty of difference. But that doesn't mean that the mechanic's job is repetitive or low skilled or non-challenging or non-complex. And the higher up that you go in mechanics and mechanical repair, you know, like we're going to have cyber repair here pretty soon. We're going to have robot repair. Those are going to be trade jobs. They're going to be pretty complex. So I think I see what your analogy is, and I think I drew a parallel to that that's equal, mechanic versus engineer, right? But I don't think that you have a whole lot of examples of those. Those are different professions, right? So what happens whenever you have a glut of doctors? It's pretty tough to get complexity when you can't find a job. I used to say this, I use this with my troops. I asked them one time, who is more important to society, the doctor or the garbage man? And most people would say, well, the doctor is more important. And the answer is no. He's not more important. He's not less important either. You need both. Because if you remove the people who take care of the sanitization process, you're back in the Middle Ages. We actually have that happening here in the States right now. California is so overrun with filth right now that we have Middle Ages diseases making a comeback because the sanitary conditions are so out of hand. Let's see, I need to mount up. So I think there's a place for both. But for right now, here in the States in particular, if I'm talking to a young person and their option is to go to college for a degree in something like gender studies, which is what a lot of these kids are doing, or go to a trade school, I'm going to recommend a trade school 10 times out of 10. If they go to college for a better degrees, let's say something like oceanographer maybe. There's a professional job. But then are they able to actually get a job? And what I'm seeing is that right now, when it comes to the kinds of degrees that colleges are offering, at the low-level entry position that these kids are coming out of school to fill, there's a glut, and they're not able to find a job. Meanwhile, you got trade jobs sitting there that people have traditionally looked down upon that are making money hand over fist, providing rewarding careers, and allowing you to become an expert in your profession. And it is exactly that. It's a profession. Bum, 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 bum. I was going back to Quad K's analogy. I want to acknowledge there are differences. I was in comm electronics. I was basically what you would call a radio mechanic. I can repair radios. I can repair a bunch of stuff, not just radios, because I was in ground radio. I can repair satellites. And I can work with telecom in general. I wouldn't require a whole lot of training to switch over into another area of telecommunications. So like cable networking, for example, or fiber optics. But what I'm not is I'm not an electrical engineer. I'm not somebody who's going to actually design the radio over at Northrop Grumman. We must have gotten closer. I don't know. I must have completed that quest it was sending me to. Oh, no? Okay. I'm getting into areas where it's doing proximity detection, so it wanted to send me on a different quest. Quad says, we will literally take anyone that will show up consistently, too. Yeah, that's another big thing. That's just a problem that I don't know how it is where you're at, Quad K, but we're having a problem with our youth, and that they're undisciplined and they feel like everything is too much of an ask. Literally take anyone that will show up consistently too. You could be 50 with no experience, and we would be willing to teach you everything we know. No school required. Oh man, so that speaks to community. You have a rewarding community rather than having people above you that have an interest of holding you down and suppressing your talent and potential because they're scared that you're coming for their job. There's so much work available that nobody's scared about that. So it changes office politics. See, I'm putting all this together live, Armstrong, based off of your statement. That's an eye-opener. I had not even considered that. Am I hitting the nail on the head? Am I extrapolating the right conclusions there? That's a weird word to use, extrapolating. Armstrong says, yes, very accurate. You know, my grandfather, so we're going back. I'm almost 50 years old right now. So my grandfather, we're going back several generations, right? It's a different America. It's a different time period. It's a different world. And hold on, let me find this guy. It keeps trying to track me into this dude, and I keep missing him. Let me make sure I'm not passing him over here. So he grew up during the Great Depression, and he basically self-taught himself how to be a mechanic because you had to work with what you had. And eventually got to the point that he built his own race cars. So he was building and designing cars by himself, and then he was driving them. He was racing them. It was just local, nothing national, right? It was local. But I'm talking about he's working from a trade job, and this was his career arc. So he learns how to be a mechanic, growing up as a kid, having to repair things. Then he builds his own race cars and races them. Then he gets into the milk industry with Borden's, and he learns how to work the floor, repairing that equipment, which was a high-pressure job because milk goes bad, obviously, right? If you have a machine failure, your entire line of milk there is in jeopardy, and that's a big deal for the company. Not only for the company, but you're talking about if the pasteurization process goes wrong, you could actually ship the milk out, and now you've put people at jeopardy. So there's a lot of responsibility happening for the mechanics that are in charge of keeping this stuff in working order. If something breaks, you're on the clock. The timer has started. So then he progresses up from there, and he becomes the foreman, and he runs the whole floor. He's in charge of all of the various specialties on the floor, and to make sure that the operation runs like clockwork. And then from there, he becomes what was called a superintendent. He ran the entire plant. And from there, he became one of Borden's best superintendents, and they moved him from place to place to place across the country to get plants that were performing at subpar conditions up and going, and to train the people there how to keep it running in that kind of way. So he would like train his own replacements, and then he would go to a new plant. All of that from a trade job. So that's what I mean whenever I say everything has an entry point and everything has a mastery point that I don't think it's a really good what's the word I'm looking for? I don't think it's a good area to contrast whenever you start talking about complexity, because complexity is involved in everything on planet Earth, A to Z. I'm waiting for this guy to spawn. And responsibility, all of those things increase as you improve in your profession. But I liked the analogy about the difference between a nurse practitioner and a doctor. That's a valid point. But I don't think that applies to the vast majority of things that Armstrong and I are discussing when discussing the general. You know, like being a doctor, that's 8 years of school, minimum. Most kids aren't going to college to become a doctor. Most kids aren't going to college to become an engineer. Most kids are going to school just to get a job in a white-collar field because they have the impression that the blue-collar field is a dead-end prospect. And Armstrong and I are saying evidence points to the contrary. I still don't have this Chakaz guy. That witch doctor was not the dude I was looking for. I thought he was. It says he should be right here. Oh, is that him? That's him. Go get him. Draw aggro from the other two. Hopefully. Yes, that worked perfectly. Put the heal up. Well, that was quick. There we go. See, Beast Mastery has so many answers, man. I think I am going to play Survival, because I need to find out about that. Armstrong, whenever we switch over to retail, I'll give Survival a shot. It'll be fun.
Quest complete.
But I enjoy Beast Mastery. Quad K, yeah, I'm pretty young, so I don't really have an idea of a full career path yet. Oh, okay, well, okay, so that helps, just knowing that you're young. I really did like your analogy between doctor and nurse practitioner. I think that's absolutely true. But like I said, I think that you're talking at that point in time, those kinds of where you see that kind of separation, you've really narrowed the pie down to a few professions, right? And for most people, what they'll be competing in is the various level. Oh, no, that's not true. I wouldn't be talking correctly there. Maybe. I don't know if this is correct or not. I think it is. I mentioned to you that I was comm electronics. I fixed radios, right? That, at the end of the day, is a mechanic. It's a trade job. I did that in the Air Force. One of the things that I could have gone into that would have been in a little bit different area, but it would be similar enough that I could cross-train, is repairing hospital equipment. Those machines that sit in there and keep people on life support, all that stuff has to be calibrated, right? And if you're in healthcare, you've probably run into these guys. They probably have a shop in your hospital, and all of the equipment that you use probably has stickers on it that tells you when it needs to go to that shop to be maintained and recalibrated. It's like a requirement. The hospital would get in major trouble if it was using equipment that was out of its tolerance date for calibration. That job right there is a trade job. But you're going to have a high end of that, and you're going to have a low end entry level area. And it's working in a hospital right alongside people who are in, what would you call it? Would you call it the professional class, or maybe the credentialed class? The nurses and the nurse practitioners all have certifications and stuff, right? And then you have the doctors. But those equipment calibrators are a critical part of the entire operation. And even the nurse practitioners, I mean, is that a professional job? Is that white collar? Would we consider that white collar, or is that blue collar? I don't really know. Because whenever I think of the certification process that nurses go through, I know you got to go to college. Nursing school is freaking tough as nails. There's so much memory work involved there. But then after that, you have certification levels, and that sounds like the way trade jobs are set up. Let's mount up, and I was trying to look for a good way through here. I think we're going to draw aggro, but hopefully I can just knife through it all. But overall, let me switch tones here. I think we've kind of sweated that topic out enough. Overall, what I would say is that the way the world is going, the way it's been, the helter-skelter nature of it all, my God, get in where you can. Just get in where you can. Try to work your way up the ladder and establish security for yourself. Get a career going. You know. And that's probably what lies at the root of me talking about this subject today, is that young people listening who are coming out of high school that don't know what they want to do, don't have a degree to college. I'm saying this looks like a pretty lucrative and viable option that is in high demand right now, and it costs you less than half the money and takes you half the time.
Remember the lessons of the past. Safe journey.
Armstrong says, my dad was a registered nurse for nearly 40 years, and he always said it was a blue-collar job. Yeah, see, I've got nurses in my family, too. That was my impression, is that the doctors are considered white-collar. Kind of like psychiatrists are white-collar, psychologists are blue-collar. I think, but I don't know for sure. This is an area that Quad K might actually know. He might be able to let us know because he works in that area. He's a lot closer to it than I am.
Well, look at you, helping out the Wildhammers. You're an adventurer of action, and action is what we respect around here. Your little clean-up mission is a lot more important than you might think it is. With folks thinning
Look at
out
58,000 XP per hour.
We'll be able to extend our sphere of influence in no time. Here, have a little something in addition to just making new friends here in Airy Peak.
Quad K says we have nurses from college, but also from trade school. Oh, that's what you're calling a practical nurse. Not a nurse practitioner, which I think might be a registered nurse, but a practical nurse. I got you. Okay, so then the ones that I'm thinking of are the registered nurses. They went to college, because I can remember while I was going to college, I met people that were going to nursing school, and I heard about all of the stuff that they had to memorize. And then plus I've been through some EMT courses in my life. And then in my family, as I said, I've got a number of nurses in my family. So I'm familiar with how rigorous of a field it is. And boy, you better get things right or you'll get held to account. Now, I say that during the era that we had TikTok nurses out there doing a whole bunch of dances, pretending like they saved the world from something. No, you didn't. You were dancing and making videos, you know? So I guess that's just going to be true of every industry, right? But, anyway, it is a tough job. I just don't really know how I would separate that out as to whether blue collar or white collar. Like Armstrong says, his dad was a registered nurse. That's the college degree nurse. That's the one I'm talking about. And he always said he was blue collar. That's 40 years of career. You know what I think it's coming back to, guys? I think it's coming back to what I was talking about at the very beginning. I think Quad K has expressed a sentiment that I was referencing earlier, where you think about being a plumber and you're like, ew, why would I want to break my back for the next 70 years and not have anything to retire on and not be satisfied and pushed in my job at all, because it's what do they call it? It's a knuckle dragger job. That's the overall idea, right? It's kind of it's been programmed into our society. It's the reflex action where you look down on people who do this and you're like, well, anybody could do this job. That's why you're doing it, because you're a troglodyte. You're a knucklehead. You do this because you can't do anything else. This job sucks. You wouldn't do this out of choice. You do it because you have to. That is the sentiment that I was that I was saying got pushed after this sudden switch to a preference in college graduates in the 80s. It took the 80s. It took about 10 to 15 years. It was the 80s, and then by the mid 90s, it was assumed as a presupposition that if you didn't want to be poor and broken down physically whenever you got older, that you needed to not become a plumber. That was a job people did because they had to. You needed to go to college and get educated. And I think what we're seeing is that maybe that was true at one point in time. I kind of think it wasn't. I think that was astroturfed. But let's just assume that it was true at one time. But then when everybody starts doing that, you get into this supply and demand issue. And then we find out that the accusations made of these trade jobs aren't actually true, as I brought up with the example of the engineer that was designing the robot hands for flipping NASA. You know? So I don't know. To me, it's a... You know what's actually of greatest interest to me? All of this, it doesn't touch me. I don't need a career, right? For me, what's super interesting and what I gravitate around is the gaslighting, the engineering of society. Increasingly, I feel like it's us normal people against people that would really love to make a neo-feudalistic society where they're the new aristocracy and you're the new serf class that serves them. And you better like it while you do it. That kind of a thing, right? And so to be able to see through social engineering and actually critically think about something and say, wait a minute, they've told me this, and this about this certain job or area of industry. And I got to the point where I just kind of assumed it was true without ever even thinking about it. And then I hear X, Y, and Z that are polar opposite from that. What is going on here? And to break free from what's called Plato's Cave. That to me is exciting. Boom, we got a ding.
That griffin is destined to lead the next generation of griffins. If he's lost, then the strength and spirit of our fleet will suffer immensely. Sharpbeak was not with the Witherbark trolls. Perhaps the Vilebranch trolls took him. Go to the altar of Zul on the western edge of Vilebranch territory and search for the griffin child.
Armstrong says, other than being in the military, I've never had a job where people were so willing to be mentors and positive career influences than in the trades. Yeah. And given the circumstances and surrounding context, it seems that makes sense because you're not having to fight for work. There's more than enough work available, so people aren't threatened. It's just, I don't know, it's fascinating. But again, my thing is seeking out truth. I just have gotten to this position. I'm a few weeks shy of turning 48 years old. I've gotten to a position where I really feel I'm not overstating things when I say we're being lied to every day of every week of every month of every year and every second of that day. It really that's a big statement if you think about it. We're being lied to constantly. It's being shoved down our throats. We're being saturated and gaslit to the point until we believe it. We're being psychologically battered. You know, and so I want to strive against that. And so I kind of, it's like I question everything. The same way as whenever I grew up in a religious household. So I've been quote unquote saved since I was born. And then I wasn't Catholic, so the idea was you had to make your own personal decision for Christ. This is the environment I grew up in. So I've made that decision multiple times at multiple levels of my life. As a little kid, as a teenager, as a coming into adulthood young man, you know, these rededications and stuff like that, right? But I'm telling you, one of the biggest moments was whenever I was 19 years old. I was in Portugal at my first assignment, and I didn't know what to think. My life had entered into an area where I was getting very little sleep. Sometimes it was hard to tell if I was awake or if I was asleep. I started noticing that could have really serious consequences, because if you thought you were asleep and dreaming, you might do something that could get you killed because you think, oh, it's I'm dreaming, right? And then I remember one day in particular, I woke up and I felt, man, I'm going to describe it in a way that sounds dramatic, but it's the truth. I felt really cold, but it wasn't the kind of cold that you feel whenever you step outside on a winter day. It was internal cold of the grave kind of stuff within my chest. I felt like I was dying, like it was soul death, like I was separated from life, right? It was really weird. But that prompted me to decide that I needed to figure out what I believed in, and I had to do it for myself. Right now, most Christians will tell you they run into this. So again, I'm not preaching. This is a larger point is being made here. This is just my personal experience. Okay, but I reached this point. Remember, I'm talking about living in a world where we're being lied to all the time. What is the truth? How do we find out what the truth is? So I reached this point that I felt like I really needed to know what was what. What did I believe in? And so for me, as a guy that grew up in a very spiritual family, not just my immediate family, but my extended family as well, I put evolution on the table. I did what's called tabula rasa. That's a Greek term. It means a blank slate. It means I wipe all of my presuppositions off the table, and I consider absolutely everything. Everything is a possibility. Let's find out what's what. Now, this whole process didn't take me a whole heck of a long time, and it's not like I'm being super nuanced about it. I'm 19 years old, right? But I lived on a tiny 3-mile by 5-mile island. So when you're on an island that small, you can see the ocean pretty much everywhere. And I looked outside my window, and I was able to see 3 ecosystems. I saw the grasslands right inside of the compound that I worked at. I saw the jungle right outside of it. So the grasslands, it was like pasture land. There were cows out there that were eating the grass that the Portuguese owned. And then there was the jungle, and then there was the ocean. And I watched how all 3 of these things worked together, and it had just got done raining, and I looked out into the ocean, and there's a double rainbow, right? And so pretty much within 5 minutes of looking out at all of that, I said, there's no way that all this happened on accident and that it all just works together seamlessly like this. This is obviously designed. So at that point in time, the internet had just been invented. And I went and I researched. I decided evolution's not it. I don't think that can possibly be right, because evolution says everything kind of happened by accident, and everything adapted to the surrounding circumstances as time rolled on. And I was like, I don't think so. That whether I'm right or wrong, I'm not making a case, right? But that was the conclusion I reached. So then at that point in time, I decided, okay, so it's got to be like one of these belief systems. So I went and looked at Christianity, Islam, and Buddhism. This is before Islam was popular or infamous. It was neither one of those things. This was me just knowing about different belief systems out there. So I looked at all 3 of those on the internet to find what could I find evidence for. Well, the Bible was the only thing I could find actual hard evidence for. Didn't mean that it was completely true, but when it came to Islam, it basically came down to do these things because this dude says. They didn't give you any other. There was no other support, right? Whereas for biblical evidence, there's a lot of historical support and stuff like that, like for what the Bible says. These people existed. These people did these things. There's examples of times when we said, no, those people don't exist, and those people didn't do those things. That's why this book is fake. And then we found out years and years and years later that, no, they did. The Hittites is one example of that. Okay, so for Islam, I didn't find any of that. And for Buddhism, I didn't really find an explanation for who we were or why we were here. I more found what I felt like was like a life coach. It was a generally, if you want to be a good person, live in this fashion. So I tell you that story because That's what I think we have to get to right now. Not talking about the religious aspect, but the ability and willingness to go tabula rasa. When you start realizing, holy smokes, I'm in Plato's cave. I don't think I'm being told the truth. I don't think I've been told the truth my whole life. And I think a lot of my presuppositions might be false. Then going tabula rasa and starting from ground zero again might be the right answer. I don't know if I'm making sense on all that. It's a complex subject. There's a lot more I could say about it, but hopefully the gist is understood, because I do think we're in an era of deception that is at a deeper level than perhaps all of history. I think there's potential that we're in a deeper level of deception and a wider ability and a greater ability to deceive. Like mass psychosis level deception for multiple societies. Not mass psychosis, mass hallucination. Quad K says, we have compulsory military in my country, and it was cool to have an army drill with us army. Yeah, there were a lot of nations that I was in that that's how they operated too. I actually, when it comes to actually fighting real war, I don't think that I don't think that works out real good usually, unless it's someplace like Israel where everybody really takes it super serious, because the feeling of threat is pervasive every day. That's the exception to the rule. But as far as a productive thing for young people to go into right out of high school, I think it actually is a really smart idea. Now, that's me from the outside looking in. I've never experienced that before, but it seems like it would help instill some discipline into your nation's youth and give them some skills, maybe not job skills, but like their mental outlook and how they problem solve and deal with adversity. Give them some skills in that area that they wouldn't otherwise have. Armstrong says, where in Portugal were you? I was stationed at Lajes. Yeah, that's where I was. Terceira. The gas station in the ocean, right? Gas station of the Atlantic. That was my first assignment. I was there for about...
Quest complete.
It was supposed to be 9 months, I believe. No, 15 months. Gosh, I don't remember how it was divided up. I had a short tour, but for reasons that I actually don't remember, it was extended a little bit. So I ended up staying there for I think I was there for like 13 months, but honestly, I can't even remember. I can't remember how long I was there. And then after that, I went to San Antonio. I was actually permanent party at Lackland Air Force Base. Talk about not having anything to do. That was probably the worst assignment of my entire career, because we didn't have anything to do. You had to come up with your own work. And that's where I learned that a hard day work of physical labor actually goes quicker than one, and you're less tired. It goes quicker and you're less tired when you get home than whenever you have had to use your brain all day long to come up with stuff to do. Mental exhaustion is far more exhausting than physical exhaustion in my experience. I learned that lesson in San Antonio. Now, Maybe I'm wrong on that. I just had that one experience and I kind of made up my mind about that. So it's not like I have a lot of experience, a large sample size to base that idea off of, but it sure seems like it's the case. Armstrong says, nice. It was a year tour with base preference after for me. Okay, so if it was a year for you, I'm thinking mine was 6 months. And then I ended up being there 9 months. I'm pretty sure that that's how it went. Once you told me that the long tour was 1 year, that helped me dial it in. Yeah, that would be true because the regular bases, so Largest is what's called a short tour. No matter if you're there for a year or for 6 months, you're doing a short tour, and that's what allows you, because nobody wants to go there and it's generally considered to be kind of a crappy assignment. That's what allows you to get to pick your base after. And normal bases that are not classified as short tours, you would go there for 2 years or 4 years. So yeah, I must have been assigned there for 6 months because I was single, and then ended up staying for 9 because of reasons. I don't remember what for. I had to extend for some reason. Quad K says, were you ever in Finland? Was funny to see guys from Florida walking on a pile of snow. Oh man, Quad K, I am from Florida. I grew up in Florida. And I have not been in Finland, but I did what was called NATO Tactical Fighter Weaponry, NATO TFW. It was a big exercise. They might still hold it. I don't know. But at that time, it was something that they did I don't remember if it was every year or every couple years, but I went. It was in Denmark, and I got to work with the Finnish. It was really cool. We all went out drinking together. And then we gave each other coins. So that's something that it seems like most of the Western militaries do that. Western culture militaries. So the Finnish gave us their unit coin and we gave them our unit coins. And unfortunately, I flipping lost mine. I'm still mad about that. But yeah, they were cool to work with, man. They ran I was at a site that ran the radar for the aircraft to use, and they ran the surface-to-air missile sites for the exercise, simulated, of course. Quad K says, yeah, we had neg 35 Celsius when U.S. Army was here. It's very effing cold. Man, bro, for me, I can't wrap my head around. I say no. Humans aren't meant for that. I won't go. No. For me, dude, if you get down into the 20s, for me, that's ice cold, man. If you get down to 12s, I'm like, this is insane. If you throw wind chill into that, and it's 12 degrees outside Fahrenheit, 12 degrees Fahrenheit, and there's wind chill, I'm ready to check out. I'm like, humans were not made for this. Let's go elsewhere. I deal well with heat. I'm really bad at cold, man. We are almost there. Must be at the top of this tower here. We'll start, oh, here we go. Put Viper Sting on them. Maybe I can stick this at the very, very, very tippy top. That might work. He was hitting me for pretty good damage. Ooh. That arcane shot kind of wrecked his world. WotLK says, have you thought about making a Death Knight too? You could soon do that. Yes, I have actually. It won't be until I'm done doing this kind of journey through all the chronological expansions that I missed out on. But I want to have a Paladin and I want to have a Death Knight because they're like polar opposites of each other. I feel like I would, whatever mood I'm in, I would have something to go play. I am really starting to enjoy my Paladin over on the Season of Discovery server. He just hit level 25. And man, that dude can do pretty much everything. He's a lot of fun. It was a bit of a grind to get him to that point. But he just needed to get past the low-level skills and into, I guess, what makes his class unique. And I'm having a lot of fun with him. I have a rune cloth bandage here. Better use it. Oh, darn it. Oh, is it gonna get me? Oh, I should have feigned death. I guess designing the AI for games like this looks like it would be, it's probably extremely tedious, all the coding, but it's neat. Because I think that witch doctor picked up on my healing. I think that raised my threat when I healed myself with that rune bandage. And to have all of that programmed into the AI and how it responds really makes or breaks a game. WotLK says, oh, he already said, I read about the Death Knight thing, yeah. Do I have food? I don't really want to use another bandage. Here we go. I should get a well-fed off of this also. Let's just attack. Then we're gonna need, well, let me try and just take him out. I might be able to. Without this one aggroing. Oh, I missed the arcane.
Quest complete.
Okay, are we done with this whole zone? It feels like there should be more quests. From, like, I'm going off of my memory of this zone. I would be a little surprised if that was it. Maybe not a ton surprised, because if memory serves, it wasn't super quest dense in this zone, but it was more than Swamp of Sorrows. I think that's what I recall, so maybe it's true that I have pushed past it. We're level 47, I have a talent point to spend. I would think that the next zones for us to go to, though, are level 50, so there should be stuff. There should be zones that are like 40 to 50. We might be done with this one. Also, my only experience in this zone, I think, is as Horde. So the quest might be different. There's certainly a lot of mobs. You can see I'm not able to really traverse this place without drawing aggro constantly. That's what makes me a little bit surprised that we would be done with the quests already. Okay, I kind of took the scenic route, it seems. So this guy was looking to see if an influential person in this zone would help him gain audience with the leader here, because these dwarves are like fiercely independent and they don't trust outsiders.
May the light embrace you. Be kind to those less fortunate.
And by getting the griffin eggs, it helps establish credibility for him. He's doing something for them, right? To try and show we're on the same team.
Dionis Haka. Be well.
Okay, next then is the leader guy all the way up at top. I think it's the leader. No, it's the Griffin Master. It says it right here. That's the leader, High Thane. Falstad Wildhammer. And then the Griffin Master is in here.
Sharpbeak wasn't there. That is bad news, but it is good news too. It is good that he
okay,
was
Blasted
not at the altar
Lands.
of Zul, for the vile branch trolls are known for performing sacrifices. I thank you for all of your aid, but I'm afraid I have an even greater task ahead. Take this feather to Thaddeus Grimshade, the diviner. He left Airy Peak years ago to pursue darker knowledge, but in his heart he is still a Wildhammer, and perhaps his talents can help us find Sharpbeak. This feather was taken from the nest where the Griffin child sleeps. If you give it to Thaddeus, then, with luck, he can use his divining magics to find Sharpbeak. Good luck, adventurer. You will find Thaddeus in the Blasted Lands, in the Mage Tower of Netherguard Keep.
See you soon.
Okay, so, well, we got our next quest, our next zone. The questing actually takes us there. Oh, and look at this. It's telling us we need to go to Lakeshire Ridge. So let's open up the map. Scroll out. How do I... Okay, new map, and I'm still learning how to manipulate this. I guess I'm going to follow the instructions for now. Oh, there we go. Okay. All right, so this must be the Eastern Plague. Yeah, Eastern Plague Lands, level 55 to 60. Tristfall Glades, we don't want to go there. Western Plague Lands is 50 to 60. These are Night Elf areas, I think. Silver Pine Forest, these are low-level areas. Arathi Highlands, Wetlands. Here's the Badlands, 35 to 45. Searing Gorge is 43 to 50. Burning Steppes, 50 to 60. Red Ridge, Blasted Lands, 47 to 55. Okay, well then, we are in all likelihood going to try for Searing Gorge, I think. 43 to 50. And we'll do some questing there and then come back into the Badlands. We're at a level that we can handle it, but I think the questing will go faster if we go to, what was it called? Searing Gorge. Darn it. Red Ridge, Swamp of Sorrows, Elwyn Forest, Burning Steppes, Searing Gorge. How do I get into this place? Blackrock Mountain is there. Can I enter from here? I don't know. These are things I'm asking out loud. We'll find out. Right now we're going to go to Red Ridge and we'll go...
Where would you like to fly to?
Off with you.
Maybe we'll just stick with where we're headed with this quest. It begins at 47. We are 47. Oh, look at this. This is part 3 of 7. Wow. Blasted Lands, I think. Yeah. Yeah. Armstrong says, one of the few times I played WoW on my friend's account, he showed me his Death Knight when the class first released. Looked very cool. Yeah, they're nifty, man. And if you're somebody who kind of gets into the story and the lore like I do, that makes them even more cool. See, I didn't know that whenever I was first playing World of Warcraft. I'd never heard of Warcraft 1, 2, and 3. I didn't know that Arthas was a character that had existed way before WoW ever came out. I thought that they invented him for the next expansion, you know. So when the Death Knight class came out and it was brand spanking new, even without having any of the back history, I looked at it and I was like, man, that's pretty cool. And now that I know the backstory, it makes it even more fun and interesting to play because Arthas is a bad dude, man. That guy's like the Darth Vader of this game. And so I'm looking forward to making one. And I like having classes that are antithesis of each other. I think maybe that's why I like playing both Priest and Warlock, or I have in the past. I've said before, I really am not comfortable with the demonic aspect of Warlock. Death Knight has some of that also. But the class mechanics and the overall kind of Halloween feel that they have, I like these polar opposite classes. I saw somebody, I think it was yesterday on Season of Discovery, wondering what the heck were the devs thinking when they designed these flight paths, and he was complaining about the length of time that classic WoW has in all of its travel plans, whether you're flying or whether you're taking one of those boats or a Zeppelin if you're Horde. I think Menethil Harbor looks fantastic. And I can remember reading an article about it back in the day where the devs were asked that very thing, and they said that they had reached the conclusion after a lot of testing and a lot of, I'm sure, polling with like beta testers and stuff, that they made the determination that putting this kind of travel time into the game actually gives the player a sense of immersion. And it does it in a weird way. It's doing it by incorporating the real world frustrations of waiting on a bus or waiting on a train or waiting for the boat to take off, to leave. So it ties you into things that subconsciously you're very familiar with. It brings, and so because of that, it brings a whole nother level of reality, and it also, in addition to that, makes the world feel big, really big. Like, I would be willing to bet you that if you play as a mage where you can just portal all over the place, you probably lose that sense when you're playing this game. And I think that they succeeded in that. I think that that's actually true. And so I don't sweat it. I don't complain about it. I look at this as an opportunity for me to sit back and drink hot tea, and maybe because we're in an age where it's, your general folks like me can afford to have 2 monitors, I can be cruising something on the internet over on my side screen, researching my class or something while I'm flying around, and I still watch. I'll still look over and I'll look around, and they updated their skyboxes when they did these re-releases, and I think they've looked really good. Sometimes you can even get God Ray effects happening. And so I'll look around at the zone and what all's going on. One of these zones you fly over, there's NPCs, Alliance NPCs, fighting a dragon. It might be this one. It might be right up here. Nope. Oh, here's Syrian Gorge. This is the place I was thinking of coming. It is. It's over this direction. I was wrong. I think we're coming up on it, though. So there's always like little things going on. I remember this place. I've been up in there. It's been a long time since I've been there, though. There's a scar-scaled drake. There's a green. No, that's a yellow. And then right up here, I think they're fighting. They killed them. Normally there's a dragon there. So they won that fight recently. You get into Elwyn Forest, and Elwyn Forest is so idyllic. It's a beautiful place. And to me, this reminds me of whenever I was in Europe. You have a lot of countries packed in together, and they say that it's kind of like in the US, it's going from state to state, but it's a little bit more than that, because in the same area that the United States has its different states, Europe has completely radically different cultures, or at least it used to be that way. So whenever I would travel from Italy into Austria, as you're getting very close, when you're like 20 minutes out from the border to Austria, the architecture changes. You're seeing A-frame houses now. because you're getting close to the Dolomites, which is the foothill to the Alps. You're getting heavier snow there, and the Austrians know about heavy snow. The Germans know about heavy snow, and they build. Their culture has come up with building techniques to handle that. So you're seeing these big A-frame houses. Those do not look anything like normal Italian construction. And to me, this does the same. Each of these zones, they have a different feel, and you miss out on all of that whenever you don't have these kinds of flight times. Look, I've had to talk about this for 8.5 minutes. That's a long time in a video game to just find something to chit chat about. So I understand people being like, in our day and age, we are so hustle bustle. I think people look at a lot of things as wasting time, and they want to go. But if you could just relax, and I like how they designed. Look, we're like swinging, we're yawing to the left and the right. It feels very organic. We're not just flying in a straight line. We're following this road here, and whenever I'm running down this road, I'll buff these guys. So to me, I enjoy this aspect of WoW, and to hear the players complain, my assumption then is that retail does not have this aspect. So I think this is part of the charm of classic World of Warcraft. And look at how much time I've spent in this zone on Season of Discovery. I've spent a lot of time between this character and my Season of Discovery characters. I've spent a lot of time in this zone, and we're flying over places that I've quested before. I don't know. To me, it's cool. Maybe I'm the oddball. I could see that. I do tend to march to my own beat. Oh yeah, we're not here to turn in a quest. That's my bad, guys. We gotta go. All right, we're gonna have to go. Oh, it wants me to go to Duskwood. Why didn't it just say fly to Duskwood? What a bunch of jerks. We didn't have to come to Red Ridge. We needed to fly to Duskwood. On this map, I missed the arrows that tell you this is the path that leads into X zone.
Where would you like to fly to?
I want to go to Duskwood.
Farewell.
And then I guess from Duskwood, there must be an entry point into the Blasted Lands. I am really, really, really having fun with this game. I think it's to the point where I wouldn't say I'm wanting to get it out of the way. That's not true. But I'm excited that I'm on the tail end of the Elden Ring playthrough. And then I'll be able to put a pause on that and just really focus in on WoW. And I need to finish up my Deus Ex series also. I haven't seen the end of that game, and I really want to. But World of Warcraft has been so much fun to play, and I've been playing a lot of it. I am streaming a lot, but what you guys don't see is me playing offline also on those Season of Discovery characters. I'm playing a lot of WoW these past few weeks. It's probably, I don't know, it's probably an unhealthy amount. But, boy, I have had a lot of fun. Oh, now it wants me to go to Lakeshire. Okay, this thing can't figure itself out. So we're going to get here. It says it wants me to take the Griffin. I am not going to take the Griffin. I need, like, my regular map. What's this zone? This is Shadowthorn Vale. Stranglethorn Vale, I mean. Alright, and then this is Westfall. Okay. Right here is Deadwind Pass. From Deadwind Pass, it looks like I can get in... I don't know about that. I don't think I can get into the Blasted Lands. Where is this? Swamp of Sorrows. Red Ridge Mountains. I think we got to go through the Swamp of Sorrows. Okay, so that's... Here, we're going to go ahead and utilize... Tell you what, I think I really just want to hoof it. We need to get to what's called 3 corners. And at 3 corners, we should be able to take a path into the swamp. And then we'll go through the swamp and get into the Blasted Lands. Quad K says, WoW is addictive. I don't know what NGL stands for. Not going to lie. Yeah. Yeah. WoW is addictive, not gonna lie. That's very good. Yo, Quad, man, for being from another country, your English, you don't just speak English, you speak American. Like, you understand the slang. If you didn't tell me that you were from another country, I wouldn't know. You're that good. And I always like to let people know that they have English as a second language, because my experience, especially when living in Europe, but really it's all over. It's all over the world. I would run into people that they're always saying, "I'm sorry, my English is not perfect." And I'm sitting there being like, "Dude, you speak like 7 languages. I speak 1." And I butcher the words that I know in your language. I absolutely destroy them to the point that you guys laugh at me and say I sound like a 4-year-old. One of my friends, whenever I was in Italy, he met a girl, and I think it was Austria. I'm trying to remember if that was the case. Well, anyway, he started dating her. I don't know how he met her. We were stationed in Aviano, but Austria was like an hour away. So he met this girl somehow, liked her. This guy was like really good with females. So, I mean, he could go from girl to girl to girl, but he liked this chick enough to actually start dating her and stay with her for a while. And, that was a little unusual for him. But she spoke 13 languages. I couldn't believe it, man. 13 how do you keep that many words in your brain? How do I get into this area I need to get into? Oh man, I so desperately need a regular map. Let's try, I tell you what, let's try this. I know how to do this, I think. Escape. Options. Add-ons. Carbonite. No. Go to add-ons. Go to actual add-ons. Disable Carbonite. Reload UI. This is what I really miss. These little arrows here. Okay, this goes to Duskwood. This goes to Elwyn Forest. This goes to the Burning Steppes. All right, now looking at Duskwood then. I think maybe I need to get into Deadwind Pass. Okay, this is Duskwood, Stranglethorn Vale, Westfall, over here to the Deadwind Pass. If I then click on Deadwind Pass, Swamp of Sorrows, okay, and the Blasted Lands. So I need to get back up to the Griffin. And we're going to go back into Duskwood. Actually, I guess we're right there. We can hoof it. Swedish, German, this is Quad K talking. Swedish, German, Dutch learn English pretty easily, but the rest will struggle in Europe. Yeah, and it's the same over in the East also. So, like, I guess the further away from, because English is Germanic based, as I understand it. If I understand it correctly, the English language formed out of Germanic languages. So whenever you get into places that the roots of their language are not Germanic, now you're talking a real foreign way of thinking, and you got to condition the mind for it, right? So the fact that this chick spoke 13 languages, what do they call that? That's a polyglot. That's the word for it. She speaks multiple languages, but multiple languages is 2 or more. And I was impressed running into Europeans that spoke 2 or 3 languages and spoke it well. They didn't have to speak it perfectly. That it's forget what it's called now, but it's like a usable form of it. It's enough that you could communicate everything that you want to communicate and the other person understands it. And that to me was really impressive. But this girl spoke 13. I've never heard of that outside of her. I'm sure that it exists, but man, that's nuts. The mental flexibility you have to be able to adapt all of that into your mind and then hang on to it. Yeah, Quad K says that is some kind of world record. Yeah, it's a lot, man. So, wow. That's that kind of, earlier I was talking about people are lucky to find jobs that aligns with their skills. And some people are fortunate enough that their skills are like really bright and easy to identify. Like that girl, she's got an obvious skill for languages. So she kind of knows what area that she could get into if she wanted to earn a good living, because there's a strong demand for that in the corporate world where you're having to deal with multiple countries. If you can, over here in America, if you can kneel down on one knee and throw a football 75 to 100 yards, you have an obvious skill. But there's a lot of people that don't have obvious skills, and the mistake that they make, I was kind of like this, they think that everything that they can do that's special, they actually think it's unique, or that it's common. Not unique, but common. Why is my mini map over here? That's weird. Yeah, so they think they think everybody can do it. And that's just not the case. Everybody out there has some things that they can do that it's a limited group of people that can really excel at it naturally like they do. Am I going the right way? We want to make a left whenever we can. So for me, one of the things was I'm very empathetic, and I understand people, and I'm good at communication, or have been. I'm actually worse at communication now than I've ever been. Something happened whenever I got older. It had to do with the end of my military career. Like, I was really kind of broke down from stress and stuff. And so, but I'm better now than what I was. So I've gotten better over time. It's just, I think I needed time. But I can kind of guess where people are coming from. A lot of times I can get to know somebody and how they work at a really ridiculously fast rate. Like, I just need to talk to you, and then I'll put you together real fast. And that's one of the things that made me a really good supervisor, is I could understand. When you're a supervisor, a lot of times you're dealing with young people, and young people a lot of times don't really have a good understanding of who they are or what they want to do. But because I had that ability and I could put somebody together, I could talk to them about what they're doing and why they're doing it, what their motivations were or what their hang-ups were, and what they needed to do to overcome it. And then I was also very good at identifying what they were special at. I could tell somebody what their skill set was, and then I could put them in positions where they handled things that skill set would help them excel. But whenever I was 16 years old, I didn't understand any of that about myself, and I just thought I didn't have any gifts, right? So some things are hard to see, and it takes you sometimes all the way into your mid to late 20s before you start realizing, holy smokes, I think I'm doing this at a higher level than your average bear, right? I guess we got to cut across open country. Let's skirt around this way. Pretty sure this is a horde base. Are those guards? Stunner grunt, yes, and they're elite. Oh gosh. This guy seems to have the right idea. He is level 59. Let's follow him. At least for a little ways. I'm listening to all the sounds, trying to hear if danger is coming in. Like, I keep thinking I'm hearing somebody mining. Oh, I am. It's in these caves. Okay. NPCs. Because I was checking my map and being like, I don't see any. Oh, well, I'm not a miner. That's right. Oh, no. Oh, no. My paladin is a miner. My hunter is not. Oh my goodness. We're being aggressed by elites. Is this the pathway? Yes. Okay. Home free. Fallen hero of the horde, and he's green to us. So he's an outcast. Oh, lightning. Scary. I have not been here in 15 plus years. 14 plus years. Now, I don't recall this place having very many quests. But now that we're here, back into options, back to add-ons. Add-ons. Re-enable, reload UI. Scorpions. That's an impressive fortress, and it's intact. It's not battered down or anything. We'll see if we can do some quests here. I don't know how many they're going to have for us. Maybe more than I'm expecting. Doesn't look like it. It looks like a whole lot of nothing. Got a dragon skull there. If I killed a dragon, I would mount that skull also.
What's on your mind?
Ah, yes. This feather belongs to a fine griffin. One destined for great thing, if he can survive into adulthood undamaged. You wish to find him? Then listen close, brave adventurer. I'll find out where your griffin is, but first you have to do something for me. There's a troll in Zul'Farrak, Necrom Gutchewer, who possesses a medallion I would very much like to study. Bring me that medallion, and I'll use my powers to find Sharpbeak. Zul'Farrak is across the ocean to the west, in the desert of Tanaris.
Man, I'm really not wanting to go to Tanaris. I think I'm going to do a little bit of research and see what zone I should be in. I'm a little surprised at the lack of quest density that I'm coming across in these later levels, starting with the last zone that we just did. So that to me means that I'm missing something. And I don't know if they have an inn here. This looks like a blacksmith. Sacred mallet. Oh, he just gave me this. What? No, that can't be right. Use at the Gentha Allure altar. I think I was supposed to use this back at the last zone. Okay. So my quest log is empty now, right? Yes. I'll have to look this up. Gentha Allure Altar. So I keep seeing Zulfaric. I thought Zulfaric was in a dungeon. Alright. Do we have an inn within these walls where we can get rested XP? I don't think so. It doesn't look like it. Alright, well, we're just going to log out right here then. And I think I'm going to have to do a little bit of research. Oh, wait a minute. I didn't go into this place. Or that one. Library script. It looks like, isn't that a pathway? I can't scroll in anymore. I don't know why that's not working. There's a flight path, that's what I meant to say. Oh, there's a map behind it. What is this? Is this the mini-map? I can see the map behind it scrolling. That must be the mini-map. Oh, now my wheel... What? I don't know, man. There's something wonky with this map. I might go back to Questy. Even though there are aspects of this that I really love. Not rested. I want to go get this flight path before I log, because I'll forget. So, you must be outside the walls. And it's not really questy that I'm opting for. It's the Leatrix maps. I don't really like how the map is. I don't have total control over everything, or I don't know how to control it. Ah, see, it's in here also. Okay, it's inside the walls. Doggone it, why can't I find this place? Alliance flight. I prefer Leatrix maps. And that's like the central core feature that Carbonite brings to the table. So I think I'm going to be disabling this. It might work better on other versions of WoW. namely retail. I remember this flight path now that I climbed the tower. Okay, good enough. We got the flight path. I have pretty much decided I don't want to use carbonite. Okay, now I gotta do something with this. How do I do that? Manage mini map. Oh no, man, I gotta figure all this out. Because this is opening over to a different side than I normally have it. It's not bartender, is it? Blizzard, XP, reputation, vehicle, micro bag. No. I thought it was Leatrix. Hide the world map button, hide the zoom buttons. Combine add-on buttons. Show who pinged. I mean, we could change it to a square. Would that maybe stick it back up in the top right? No, it doesn't. Okay, well, I'll have to figure that out off screen. We're going to go ahead and drop stream, guys. Thank you for coming by. I hope you have a terrific weekend. I will see you next week, or I intend to, but it's going to be less. Remember, I'm getting back into Elden Ring, so Tuesdays and Thursdays are the target days for me streaming, although I might stream on other days in addition to that. We'll just see how it goes. All right, guys, again, I'm Aesop Grimm. Thank you for coming by the channel. I hope you like what you saw. More importantly, I hope all is well in your neck of the woods and that 2024 is going great for you. Armstrong, you take care. I see that message. Later, buddy. Ditto. And again, have a great weekend, guys. Later on.